Morning, everybody. It's 9:30 on the East Coast, 6:30 on the West Coast. It's time for your weekly Calamity Jane live stream. James, how are you doing? It's been a couple of weeks, it feels like.
Yes, it has been a couple of weeks. Good to see you. Good to hang out with you.
Yeah, yeah.
It's one of those things where we do our stream and we talk about our animation, we talk about pop culture stuff, but we don't, I mean, we did have some life stuff happen, so I don't know how much we want to, like it. We had some stuff happen and we needed to. It just was bad timing, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
how can we
it's
talk about that? It just that's kind of how I see it.
what is it? What is it? I think it was a John Lennon quote. Life is what happens when you're making other plans. Isn't that John Lennon, or is that apocryphal? I don't know.
I'm not a huge Beatles fan. I mean, I appreciate their music, but
Okay,
you know,
well, I'm going to end this stream now. I apologize, everybody. This is information that I'm learning, and I can no longer participate in this conversation.
yeah, yeah. Sorry for all the Beatles fans, which are 80 to 90% of the
Of
world.
the world, yeah, of the world, yes.
Yeah, I get
Yeah.
it. Uh, yeah, so we can still definitely sort of quote him and say, yeah, I mean, life stuff kind of happens,
You
and
know, we have this powerful tool at our fingertips called the internet. Let's find out if it's apocryphal or not. Life is what happens when you're making other
are you
plans.
doing a search?
I am. It is, in fact, from John Lennon. It is not
Yeah,
apocryphal. There you
yeah,
go.
that's
All
good.
right. Well, there you go. Every once in a while, I pull something out of my posterior, and it ends up being accurate.
So I mean that you renewed your membership to the Beatles fan club.
I mean, I had a life membership anyway, so this is just me tithing unnecessarily.
Cool.
um,
Yeah, we're back now. We're hanging out. It's weird again. I mean, just looking across the course of our stream when we started this thing. There's been tons of world event type of stuff and everything, and in our own little corner of our cyberspace, we just doodle and hang out, and that's all we ever do. And
well, it's frustrating because it infects our lives whether we want it to or not. I'm actually working on two video games right now, believe it or not, a passion project and a paid project, and both of them are being impacted by the war because my UI designer for the one project is a reporter who is currently deployed in Belarus, I believe, and we're worried sick about him. We haven't talked to him like in a week and a half. I mean, we haven't heard from him because he's working, and we're presuming that he's okay.
yeah,
And then the other game, our engineering team were all from the Ukraine and Belarus, and they're all like being turned into refugees, and they've fled to Dubai and other countries, and they're trying to get their families out. And it's just like, it's weird to be impacted by a war that's on the other side of the world. It's very interesting. It's a surreal sort of experience to be on our Discord chat and hear our UI designer going, "Hey guys, I'm gonna have to take a pause because I'm doing reporting in this
yeah,
war in the Ukraine." Or I guess it's just Ukraine now. I guess we're not calling it the Ukraine anymore. So yeah, very interesting stuff. But at the end of the day, you can continue to put your life on hold for things that you can't control,
yeah.
or you can carry on. I mean, I don't know that there's any value in us denying ourselves our own reality because of these awful things that are happening elsewhere in the world, within reason, of course. I don't want to trivialize the awfulness of what Russia is doing right now, but by the same token, there has to be a balance.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's definitely in the background, and we're thinking about it. And then the same token, like you were saying, life still continues whether we like it or not. And so buses still, are still running, and trains still go. Banks are open. Sporting events are still happening. So you kind of just do what you do, and um, just just reserve a space for
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I mean, I worry about my UI designer. I worry about our engineering team. Um, and I hope they're okay, and I send them all the good vibes that I have, you know. But short of me getting on a plane and flying to Ukraine and signing up for the Ukrainian military, there's not a huge amount I can do. You know, I guess I could send money in that direction, but I don't anymore. I don't really trust any nonprofits. You know, I have no idea where that money is going. Is it just going to some administrative staff who's lining their pockets? It seems like that happens more often than it doesn't with charities these days, especially in America.
Mm-hmm.
But
Sure. Yeah, but so in the meantime, we'll just keep on doing work.
yeah, I mean, we got to keep moving forward. We got to make this cartoon so people can enjoy it, you know?
And if anything, is a distraction.
Yeah,
So
yeah, at the very least, yeah.
so we'll definitely talk about distractions tonight. I have a lot on my plate I was going to bring up.
Well, we've got 2 week backlog of stuff to go over, so
Yeah.
I'm ready, man. I'm ready. Let's dive in.
Let's just take a diversion. Let's go down some of the diversionary paths a little bit. I'll share my screen. I'll start doodling a little
Okay,
bit.
all right, sounds good. Yeah, I mean, maybe we even go longer than a half hour tonight.
Sure. Yeah, we're going to go down the same path where it's sometimes a challenge because I bring up stuff that you haven't watched or played yet. But I'm still going to bring them up anyway.
Please do.
This is the old man yelling at the clouds bit that we like to do.
Look, if you hum a few bars, I can fake it.
Oh, yeah. So 2 things on my plate. One is Elden Ring. That launched a couple of weeks ago. Love the game, and also the Batman movie came out as well.
Right. Well, we can speak to the Batman, Elden Ring, because it's from software, or it's that milieu at the very least. All I can do is go right,
Batman, you can kind of have some fun with it, I guess, right? I mean, has any of your work, had to do any writing in regards to Batman or pop culture stuff like that?
Oof, yeah. So for everybody, one of the life changes, and there have been a lot for me in the last 2 months, suffice it to say. But one of the good ones was I got a full-time job.
Congratulations.
Complete with insurance and 401k. I finally become a productive member of society. No more freelancer, shiftless layabout vagabond anymore. I'm still all of those things, but now I have insurance and a 401k.
You say I'm one of those? I heard that with a badge of honor.
I like this job, don't get me wrong, but I already feel I'm already missing the freedom of being a freelancer. I'll be honest. This is a job, and I have, I like it, and I'm going to keep doing it. But I do miss sleeping until like 11 a.m. and then working until 9 p.m. because I can, But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But no, I think we've talked about it on the stream before. I write scripts and do source video assets for YouTube videos, which an editor then goes and takes and puts them all together. So the week that the Batman came out, I'm on the time sensitive team. So these are the videos that have to go out quick, right? And it's actually an honor to be a part of that because only a few people get to be put on that team because it's hard. It's you have to be good at it, you have to be consistent at it, and you have to hit deadlines quickly. So it was really a real compliment that they offered me the gig.
Yeah, I'm so excited you got that gig.
Yeah, I am too, and they're really good people, and I'm really happy to be working with them. So the week that the Batman came out, it was all the Batman all the time, and so I know basically everything there is to know about movie because for a week straight, all I did was work on articles for that movie. So yes, we can discuss that at length. I haven't, believe it or not, I actually haven't seen it yet. But I know every moment of it, including the fact that the movie would be 90 minutes long if Batman walked slightly faster.
Where'd you come across that little tidbit? That's pretty funny.
This is just all of the reviews that I've read on the movie, which again were part of the job, right? Basically, good or bad, love it or hate it, the one thing everybody said was that it's too long, and one of the reasons it's too long is because for some reason everybody moves so slowly over the course of the movie, just dramatically slowly. Batman walks dramatically, and then you get into the fight scenes, and the fight scenes are all high energy.
Yeah.
But everything between it, Bruce Wayne brooding as he walks slowly, Batman brooding as he walks slowly, Gordon brooding as he walks slowly.
Wow, I didn't. Honestly, I didn't pick up on that. The only time I could actually even call to a moment where it felt slow was during. Okay, so one area I did like about this movie, compared to the other ones, was the detective aspect of it.
Yeah. Everybody really, keyed in on that. Yeah.
So that part I could see where people are. That's the moment I felt like it was slow. I didn't think about any other moments where it felt like Batman was walking down this hallway really long, taking a long time. It was mainly just the detective scenes.
Yeah. I mean, the detective scenes I think are great. And this is a aside. I don't mean to derail your conversation with the Batman, but the one thing I've really been, and I should check Steam actually, I have been dying to play again is Arkham Asylum.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I forgot how amazing that game was until, I was diving into the Batman and the emphasis on detective work, and then just remembering how brilliant Arkham Asylum and Arkham City was. Now, Arkham Knight was good, but it kind of lost a little bit of the magic by introducing that tank Batmobile thing. It it got too big for its own britches, quite frankly.
Yeah, it's a bit of a bummer. I'm with you 100% pretty much what you're saying here with with the Arkham series.
Yeah. And Arkham Origins was better than I think people give it credit for, but there were some serious missteps on it that I think, it makes it not as good as the other, at the very least, Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. So.
Yeah, Arkham Origins I would put number 3, and then probably Arkham Knight is number 4 out of it, if you were to rank them.
It was just too bloated. More than anything else, it was just too bloated. It wasn't focused enough, and that goes with the story too, right? There was just too many things going on. You've got the resolution of the Venom storyline. You've got Red Hood. You've got all these different dangling plot threads that are going in and out of it. And
I know they wanted to cram a lot of mythos of Batman into that last one. Kind of like this is our last hurrah kind of a thing. It felt like, but yeah, I'm with you. It was just a little too convoluted, and especially the Bat Tank really.
Yeah. I mean, I get why they did it. I mean, it's always you're trying to escalate. You're trying to one up yourself. You're trying to give players a reason to come back to this world. And if the game was just that, right, and they had fine-tuned and polished out those mechanics and made a game just about that car and the tank mode, it probably would have been pretty fun. But tank mode isn't the reason why I was playing the Arkham games, right? And so it felt like a distraction. It felt like it was diluting the experience that I really wanted to enjoy. And there were all these sections of the game where you had to drive the car. It was part of the story mission, right?
And that was my beef with it. It's when you have to be forced to do it, the aspect of the game that you're not conditioned to be, that you're not conditioned to play for the first 2 or 2.5 of the prequels, and don't make me play something I don't want to do, which is the Bat Tank.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest problem with Arkham Origins, well, the 2 biggest problems, the Deathstroke fight I thought was a miss completely. Because Deathstroke is one of my favorite DC villains.
Wait, are you talking about
Origins? I'm talking about Origins right now. Sorry, I started in the middle of the conversation.
Okay.
Deathstroke is one of my favorite DC villains, and he was obviously one of the main villains in the first half of Arkham Origins, but the boss fight was just a series of QuickTime events that were way, way, way too difficult.
Yeah.
It was super disappointing because I was really hoping for a really cool set-piece boss battle like, the Arkham games are known for, and it was just a QuickTime event, and it was really disappointing.
Yeah, they did them wrong twice. Because in Arkham Knight, they did them wrong in that one too.
Oh, really? I don't remember. It goes to show you. I only played Arkham Knight once. I played Arkham Asylum 3 times and Arkham City twice, and I only played Arkham Knight once.
Well, on Arkham Knight, if you maybe it was so traumatic you flew out of your But they put Deathstroke in a stupid tank. So you had a
Oh
bat.
my, you're right. I had forgotten that. Oh wow.
Awful. This is how you do Deathstroke twice. You do
Oh.
him bad this 2 times. They did the villain twice. They did him wrong twice. And
Oh
then like this.
wow.
Remember that the bat
No,
tank.
I
The
don't
bat.
want to remember that. You see, I
You
did.
will remember it.
Yeah, no, you ruined it
I'm
for
sorry.
me.
You will remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so bad. Oh my gosh, I was so angry. I was hate playing that level just because I wanted to be a completionist and finish the game. It's
Yeah.
like really stupid Deathstroke and a
Oof.
stupid bat
Yeah.
sequence.
Oh wow, I remember that. Shoot.
Even I think he pops out of the tank and then that's it. You just have a conversation with him. I don't remember that part. And you
No,
don't
no,
fight him.
no, no.
Oh my, so angry. Yeah.
Yeah, but then the other part of Origins was that for some reason, I think because it takes place in the past, or maybe they just didn't have the budget for it, but they didn't get Kevin Conroy or Mark Hamill to reprise their roles as Batman and the Joker, respectively.
Yeah, and that was you're talking about Origins,
Yeah, I'm talking
right?
about Origins again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, that being
Um,
said, Troy Baker, who is just a phenomenal voice actor,
oh my gosh.
does
Yeah.
a really impressive Joker
Yeah.
voice, right? But
I remember the fans were really upset, like, "Oh, this is a legit Batman game. They didn't get Mark Hamill." I totally get that, the fanboying of it, but it was still Troy Baker did a phenomenal
he
job.
was great. The guy who did Batman was terrible.
Yeah.
He was awful, and I think the reason they did it is they wanted a more youthful sounding voice.
Hmm.
But or maybe it was budget. I don't know. It was one of those two things. But either way, like it was a real miss. And you know, Troy Baker's Joker was good. It was fine. But the guy who did Batman was, I just, it really took me out of the experience every time he talked. Right. So,
Yeah, it
but you
wasn't
know,
that with the Batman voice actor. He didn't stick out one negative or a positive to me. It was just a generic Batman to me. So I guess that I didn't have high expectations for that.
yeah, I guess, and it's probably my own implicit biases as well. You know, it's fine. Movies, TV shows, it doesn't matter. But if you're doing like an animated Batman, whether it's video game or cartoon, really the only voice I want to hear is Kevin Conroy, right?
Yeah,
It's why I can't stand any of the movies that DC puts out. You know, they did an animated adaptation of The Killing Joke, of Dark Knight Returns, of
yeah,
a ton of different things, and they're always casting different people to play Batman, and they're all terrible for no other reason than they're not Kevin Conroy. It's super not fair, but that's just reality we're talking about here.
like he is an iconic Batman for sure.
Hmm. You know,
Yeah.
I again, I worked on so many Batman articles. I was sourcing tons of footage from Mask of the Phantasm.
Okay.
I had forgotten how amazing that movie was.
I
Oh,
didn't watch it. I need to watch it again.
oh, it's
Uh,
so good. It's so good. Like, oh, it and it's just really good. You know, it's it flashes back a lot to the movie actually is a prequel of sorts to Batman the Animated Series.
mhm.
It takes place in Batman's earlier days, not like year one level, but in sort of the first 5 years of his work, and it gives an interesting origin story to the Joker. And then, of course, there's the Phantasm character who is great, and that character's relationship to Batman and Bruce Wayne. It's
Mhm.
really good. It's back when Bruce Timm was still doing fun stuff because, he's still out there, and he's worked on a bunch of these modern Dark Knight, Batman cartoons, and they're just not as good. It's I don't know if he's lost his mojo or if he's being hamstrung by the powers that be or what, but the
I
newer
mean,
stuff just isn't as good as the older stuff.
that also, I don't know. I tend to think it's probably the latter. I think once you have success with something, and then a lot of more people are seeing it, you not, we're at WB, you kind of see that if something gets successful, then a lot more eyeballs get on it, and then everybody else wants to put their say into it, and then it starts drowning in a lot of chefs in the kitchen. So with Batman, especially when the animated series when it first started out, I don't think they expected it to be this, to be groundbreaking. They were trying to just make a one off for the Tim Burton movie, like kind of like, oh yeah, we're just
Well, yeah, I
making.
mean the opening credits even used Danny Elfman's theme for God's sake. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I don't think anybody, I don't think Warner Brothers even expected it to, become iconic as it is. And then once it did, and all that, and all those guys were on that show. Bruce Timm, who else on her? Paul Dini, right?
Yeah, Paul Dini. God, some of the best Batman comic writers whoever wrote for Batman.
Yeah,
That
they
was
cut their teeth on that. It
yeah.
felt like they cut their teeth on. This is
Yeah,
before.
no, Paul Dini was one of the big ones though. Like, and he
Yeah,
wrote Arkham Asylum too.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, so during those '90s when they did their run, by the time we get to 2000, or there's still, I think there's still the show's still on. Maybe, I don't know. I
I
don't
mean
have
it's
my
in
time.
syndication,
Yeah,
but the original animated series is has ended. Now apparently, I just saw this on Google News, and I didn't even know it existed, and I didn't follow up with it. I need to look it up. There's a new Batman cartoon called The Caped Crusader that just
yeah.
came out. That the early buzz is that it's really good.
Okay. I mean,
So
I guess I believe it when I see it. I just
sure,
don't.
sure.
They how many times they since the anime series they've relaunched, they've reinterpreted, done Batman a couple of times. And
Hmm.
I don't think it's fine. I mean, like Brave and the Bold was a fun little campy take, to kind of go back to the '70s with Adam West. I think it's unmined territory. It's worth a shot. I know a lot of people want the brooding, but it is kind of fun to have. You do, no matter what, have that in the back pocket. The kind of funny one,
Hmm.
depending
Hmm.
funny Adam West type of stuff. So I'm all for seeing a new interpretation for Batman if it is indeed that. Well, what are they gonna do? Just paint the palette black again and do another gothic, depressing Batman? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's so.
There was just something about and this is always the case. There's just something about the some of the parts being greater than the whole, right? There was just the writing, the voice acting, the animation, the art direction. There was just something really special about everything. And looking back on it, it's so easy to see how great that show was going to become, right? But you're right. I mean, in the beginning, it was just a bunch of animators and cartoon writers wanting to make something fun.
And there's no responsibility. There's no pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Get Batman, right? But they're like, yeah, this is gonna be a cartoon. It's not the Tim Burton stuff. So I'll just go ahead and do it. And what? Harley Quinn comes out of this? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
she's always like the Martin Kane now, and like any of those Suicide Squad movies and stuff like that. They always have her. And she was just what? She was a product of. Was it Paul Dini that wrote her character? I think that's who.
It. I don't. That doesn't sound right.
Dini's creation, is it somebody else? Maybe it's Bruce Timm's creation.
It might be Bruce Timm. Oh no, they're both credited.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They're both credited for it.
See, they had leeway to even make a new character to be part of Joker's origin story. I mean, and
And
now
who?
it's canon.
Yeah, yeah. No, she's a major player. I mean, she's part of
Yeah.
Birds of Prey, and she's had an on again, off again romance with I think Poison Ivy, right?
Right.
Um, and,
Probably.
but yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah,
Um,
but yeah, so totally got distracted from the Batman movie. You were talking about the detective scenes were a little bit slow, but you appreciated the fact that they were actually doing something with that. With he's called the world's greatest detective, and all we ever see is him beating up thugs.
yep, and it's the first movie where he does show it off a little bit. It was really cool to see him mulling around a crime scene, and looking at clues and stuff. That part was really neat. And again, going back to what you were saying about Arkham Asylum, I could see people getting an itch to play Arkham Asylum because of that, for sure. With the detective mode and everything else that you get in the game.
Yeah, yeah. No, I definitely got to check Steam because I've got this, this computer that I'm using is a beast. It
Yeah.
is bleeding edge, and I think I've played maybe 3 hours of video games on it. I mean, it's one of the main reasons why I have no interest in getting a PS5 or an Xbox, whatever. It's more powerful than either of those platforms, and it doesn't have the annoying, proprietary OS. I mean, it's got an annoying Windows 10 OS, but that's less annoying than the other two.
Mm-hmm. Um, The thing about the Arkham series now is that it's been, I think it's what been about over 10 years now, and
Something like that. Yeah.
I'm hoping they do a remaster one more time. I know they remastered it once, I think, for PS4 and
Yeah,
Xbox.
and actually that one, yeah, 2009. Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
Jeez, it's been almost 15 years.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, I wouldn't mind seeing a remaster of it, and then I would buy it again. And that's kind of what I'm waiting for because I haven't played. I only played them once each on purpose because I loved them so much that I didn't want to overplay them, and I wanted to play them one more. I knew that and remasters were kind of a thing, so I
Mm-hmm.
knew going to think there's a good chance they're going to remaster these things. They're a big studio property. Someone's gonna do something with them. So now I'm waiting for if they really re-release it on PS5 or a next gen computer, then I'll feel familiar and do it again.
I mean,
For
if
the
they
first,
make some money on it, you know that they will.
yeah,
I mean, it won't be Rocksteady that's doing it. They're doing that new Suicide Squad game, which I couldn't care less about.
yeah,
Um, I never liked the Suicide Squad, um, and they're doing the very James Gunn approach to it, right? All the aesthetics and the art design and the I guess the James Gunn style comedy, which he's such a one note. I don't know. I'm not, I wouldn't see it anyway, but after Suicide Squad, even if I were a fan, I certainly wouldn't go see the third Guardians of the Galaxy movie because he's clearly a one note. He clearly has no, at least from my personal opinion, he just keeps telling the same jokes over and over again.
so give me an example of this one note because I enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. I did not like the Suicide Squad, his iteration of it. I didn't like it at all. Ford. So
It's
what is it?
It's
What would you
okay.
say is
So, like, his favorite gag that he does is the old switcheroo, right? That's one of his favorite gags. So the most dramatic one he did was in the Suicide Squad, where there's that entire B storyline with Harley Quinn,
huh?
where you think that she's falling in love with what you think is the main villain of the movie, and then he says something about killing babies or something. I don't remember, and she decides she doesn't like him and just shoots him in the head, and then that's the end of the storyline,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
supposed to be hilarious, right? Or he'll do the gag where it's the whoopsie. So there's the old switcheroo and the whoopsie, right? And in Suicide Squad, the big whoopsie joke is when Deathstroke or whatever his name is. No, it's not. Whatever. He's some Deadshot also Rand, right? The guy that Idris Elba played.
Mhm.
And Peacemaker have this competition to see who can kill more of the rebels in the base, right? And they kill all these rebels, and then they find out that Rick Flag is friends with them, and he's actually was going to get them to help, but they've already killed everybody. And whoopsie, right? Like, oops, my bad. And so the switcheroo and the whoopsie are his two favorite jokes, right? And another switcheroo is at the beginning of the Suicide Squad.
Mhm.
You think, oh, here's the big squad. They got all these, Pete Davidson and Nathan Fillion and
Yeah.
I keep saying Rutger Hauer, but oh, whatever, I forgot his name. Michael Rooker, jeez. Like they build them up and then they die in literally the first minute of the in the movie, and it's just like fooled you, except no, you didn't. You do this every time. Like, this is the same old thing that you do in every movie. It's like the sleight of hand comedy, which was funny in Guardians of the Galaxy because people hadn't really seen that in a while, particularly in a comic book movie.
Mhm.
But now it's just, I don't know. It wasn't surprising and it wasn't funny, right?
So, so again, I've only seen Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2 once, and Suicide Squad once. I don't even remember him doing employing these gags in the first two, but you remember them happening in the first two where
Well, like one of the ones where uh, uh, um, you think, okay, so here's like a good switcheroo one, like Drax. I don't remember which one it was, but Drax was Drax the Destroyer, and he's gonna get up for a big fight, and I think it was Ronan the Inquisitor, like, just hits him and he's unconscious like immediately. And so he
okay,
sets it up that there's just going to be a big fight, and then switcheroo, no, Drax is now unconscious, right?
okay, Yeah.
And then there's uh, um, it's been a while since I've seen either of those
Yeah.
movies, but they're all over the place, right?
Yeah. The main thing is you feel like he relies on these mechanisms in his movies, and by the time we got to Suicide Squad, it's getting tired.
Yeah, I'd figured all the punchlines out. It's always the same punchline. That's the problem, right? I mean, the other side of it too is that Suicide Squad had a bunch of actors who aren't comedians, and
Mm-hmm.
John Cena, who isn't an actor, no matter what people think. Um, whereas, Guardians of the Galaxy, you have some very, very good comic actors, and Dave Bautista, who was surprisingly funny, right?
Yeah, I think that was a happy accident, without
Yeah.
you.
So, um, so I think you have a cast of people who could handle the comedy better as well in those. Um, but I don't know. I guess my sensation watching the Suicide Squad was, yeah, you've done all these jokes before. I know what the punchline is, right?
Mhm.
So, in any case, that's me completely, as always, derailing the conversation because I'm very good at it.
Conversation. There's no derailing. That's the whole point. Is
Yeah,
we just conversate. Period about whatever.
yeah.
So accomplished again. We've done that.
Yeah, well, you know me, I love my asides. I go on these like I'm Grandpa Simpson, uh,
Yeah.
in terms of asides.
We haven't even talked about the Batman.
Yeah, that's how we started, and now I'm on Grandpa Simpson.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. But we can always reserve that for next time around too. So whatever.
Well, I mean, we were behind 2 weeks. I mean, we're at 30 minutes. We've got a pretty good momentum going. We can go for a little bit longer, I feel like.
Sure, sure. So I mean, we can go into the Batman, I guess.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna say this though too, because I enjoyed. I mean, I enjoyed the Batman. It's not my favorite out of all the entire collection of Batman media to consume. But it made me watch. I decided to watch Batman Begins again. So to go back to Arkham Asylum,
Yeah.
I think when did Batman Begins come out? I'm not sure. I mean, I can look it up on the
I,
internet,
I'll,
but
you keep arting. I can be our researcher.
okay. Batman Begins to me, when I watched it again, and it's been years, it felt to me a huge influence for Arkham Asylum, the video game.
2005, so it definitely was.
Oh my gosh! Like it seems like they borrowed, like Sefton Hill, game director of Arkham Asylum, probably borrowed a lot from Batman Begins to layer in Arkham Asylum, and yeah, it just made me want to play Arkham Asylum even more after watching Batman Begins. But with all that being said, the Batman does use the detective stuff, which made me want to play Arkham Asylum as well because detective mode is a lot of fun. The only problem with detective mode is once you figure it out, you know where to go look, and it's kind of
It was still really clever,
yes.
and mechanically it still held up. I mean, even after 4 games, right? Well, really, there was even that Nintendo 3DS Batman Arkham Asylum Blackgate, which was also pretty fun. It was a Metroidvania, like side-scrolling Metroidvania game, and the game world was Blackgate Prison. But they still had detective mode and all that other stuff. The company did it Armature. I don't even know if they're still around anymore. But they were an offshoot of was it Retro? I think it was a bunch of ex-Retro Games guys who went and made their own company called Armature, and they did a lot of work for hire stuff. So
Okay.
Arkham Asylum Blackgate was one of those.
Okay. Huh. Um, yeah, but it's kind of funny how it all kind of ties back into Arkham Asylum being a really, really good game. And still, even echoes of it to me are kind of felt as you watch newer stuff.
Yeah.
So
Well,
really, that was my off the path thing to talk about Batman Begins.
oh no, please.
So now we can go back to the Batman, I guess.
Yeah. So, 35 minutes later, finish your thought, James, if you can remember it.
And good enough on that. Well, for the Batman, I enjoyed it for the most part. I saw something on Reddit today where they were calling Pattinson Battinson. I think that's a really clever.
Battinson. Okay.
Battinson.
Yeah.
That's
I can get behind that.
Battinson does a good job in as a Cape Crusader. I felt like, and I'm being very superficial here. I felt like he doesn't seem imposing or as scary as Bale or even Michael Keaton were as Batman in the suit. He's a little too skinny to me,
Mm.
a little more runaway model than a brute that could beat up, that could do anything he wants. I mean, or ninja like, whatever. And the Bruce Wayne, to me, the only thing is it felt much more emo. This Batman, this iteration, this interpretation of Batman was too emo. Like Bruce Wayne and Batman were the same person. And I actually like seeing the contrast of seeing how he was putting up a facade. His mask of being Bruce Wayne was a mask too, but you didn't see any of that. It's just always being sad, listening to emo music type stuff all the time, and that just kind of wore on me. And then the color palette for the movie, which was pretty much black, everywhere was just the powers out. Even the hospital is dark everywhere. It's like there's no like it made no sense to me. Like it was nonsensical. Like how there was no power like in the city anywhere. Like it's always dark everywhere. It's like I just couldn't. I just couldn't. There was moments like that took me out of it a little bit. Whereas again, when I'm watching Batman Begins, which to me is like kind of the bar that you set with the Batman movies, plenty of stuff in the day. Batman didn't care. He still did his job. And he was still Batman. He was still scary and everything else. I mean, so I don't know. It's just Matt Reeves' take on it. I think it's fine for a new if we even needed another Batman reboot, it's okay. But does it hold a candle to Begins or Dark Knight or that trilogy, the Dark Knight trilogy? Yeah, I don't think so. It's good though.
I mean, we've had this conversation I think before. I am like your lack of appreciation for the Beatles. I have a lack of appreciation for the Dark Knight trilogy. I
Oh,
I like Batman Begins okay.
uh-huh.
I thought the Dark Knight was less clever than it thought it was.
Uh-huh.
And I thought The Dark Knight Rises was just hilariously overwrought. It didn't make any goddamn sense whatsoever.
Hmm.
I thought Heath Ledger was phenomenal as the Joker. I thought it was a really interesting take on the character, more of an anarchist. But the writing falls apart because for an anarchist slash nihilist, he premeditated an awful lot of stuff. Like that whole elaborate ruse with the two fairies, one with all the prisoners and one with all the citizens, and who's going to blow each other up first, and like the amount of planning it took to make that happen is so. I mean, like in everything he did, like sewing the cell phone into the guy's skin,
Yeah.
the amount of work it had to have taken to put as many explosives into the hospital as it was such a he was such a planner, and he the way he was written was everything is sort of chaos. Like he is chaos incarnate, except that his actions betray the ethos of the character, the pathos of the character as written, and that always felt
It was real.
it always felt like there was this dissonance to me.
Mhm.
So Heath Ledger's moment to moment performance was phenomenal, but the character as written was incredibly idiosyncratic, or not idiosyncratic, just inconsistent in terms of his behavior versus his motivations.
Yeah. Um, I can't remember. Did you read the? I mean, were you a fan of reading the Batman books growing up or anything like that? Like, were you a hardcore Batman fan? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I've always been, I remain, at least philosophically, a Batman fan. Yeah, I'm, as with all geekdom these days, I'm far less enthusiastic about it as I used to be, just because the
sure.
fandom has gotten so toxic around all of this stuff. But yeah, I'd say I'm still a fan.
The reason why I'm asking because like I've read. So for me, my takeaway was different. I felt like that was classic Joker having the two fairies. Like to me, Joker is chaos, but he is so unpredictable. He can do anything he wants. He's the ultimate greatest comic villain of all time because you don't know what to expect with him. Like in that, to me, it's encapsulated when he killed Jason Todd in that whole streak where he was like making. I think he was making backwards plans with. I'm terrible with my history, but the Ayatollah
Yeah,
Khomeini.
that was Death in the Family. Yeah,
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 yeah. So he's doing this, and then he just goes nuts, and then kills. Like he goes nuts, and he blows Jason Todd. Like he plans all this stuff up, but yet he does things that are so unpredictable and so weird that all of it's Joker. Like that's the whole point. Is like you can't really write Joker because that's him. Like he doesn't like he's like a leaf in the wind. You can't predict what he's gonna do. He's a leaf. That's the only thing you can say about him. But that's it. And after that, he burns money. Well, then he's very thoughtful. He thinks about something for a little bit. Then he's completely off to left field again because that's what makes him the perfect foil for Batman, which is always planning, always doing this. And then he has to jump off into the realm of craziness because of all the villains that he's around are crazy. And then he has to jump in. And he has to do it methodically. Whereas Joker, I don't know. And again, I think writers have helped shape this, and then of course it didn't start out this way. Like I have this old volume of Joker books, like from way back when he first started, and like they're so hammy and they're so silly. But then writers, of course, with their genius, take them, adopt them, make them for the times, and all of a sudden it has a layer of complexity to Joker all through these years that we see now. I don't even know where you can take him anymore. That's the whole thing. I think Heath Ledger was kind of the final form for Joker at this point because what else can you really do with the guy? So
Sure.
for me, on my side, I thought it was great. I thought the fairy thing felt like right out of comic books. Him burning money right out of comic books. Him hanging and letting Batman have to decide right out of the comic books. All of it was just so classic Joker, but in a modern day, form with Heath Ledger doing a phenomenal job acting. So
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you fundamentally about Joker sort of being, and this is all of Batman's best villains they are in some way a dark reflection of the character, right? You know, Bruce Wayne is premeditated, he's patient, he plans, or not Bruce Wayne, but Batman. And and Joker represents the antithesis of that. He represents the chaos to Batman's order, right? Two-Face represents the binary between Bruce Wayne and Batman, right? Yeah. The Riddler represents what happens when your genius turns into outright narcissism, right? So, he is the dark reflection of Batman's intellect, right? So, some of his best villains are absolute reflections of him, and then you've got characters like the Penguin, which are fun foil characters, and
they're more classic crime boss type of,
right, exactly. And you've got some
ice thing,
right, and Mr. Freeze is just he's just a pretty one-dimensional villain who's got a superpower, but
I gotta do one thing about Mr. Freeze. He became one of my favorite villains after Dini and Tim took him, and Batman.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Oh, you mean in the animated series?
Yes, Heart of Ice.
Yeah, that was a great storyline. You're right.
They took such a cardboard villain and then made him so interesting, so compelling that from then on I was a Mr. Freeze fan. Only because of those two.
Yeah, no, that's true. That was a really good storyline. But in any case, Joker will do plans, but they're never these long, intricate. At least in my experience.
Yeah.
That's more of a Riddler thing. Like Riddler is the one who will just set up this Rube Goldbergian, things that because it's all about proving that he's smarter than Batman. Like his narcissism is about he's a grandiose narcissist, right? Mm-hmm. And his whole thing. Batman is an extremely attractive partner to him, and the way he proves his own worth is by outsmarting Batman. So Riddler is the plotter. He's the one, and that's why I didn't like everybody talks about the Riddlers, in the Batman. I'm like, him being a serial killer, Riddler will kill if it serves his ultimate goal, but sort of this premeditated.
Or he uses that as a little dangling,
Yeah.
Same thing. Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's just the pathology of the Riddler and the Batman just felt weird to me. I mean, whatever. I'm not faulting them on that, but I just kind of feel like Matt Reeves, who claims to be this big Batman fan, kind of missed the point of the Riddler to a certain extent. So I guess a lot of the level of steps that the Joker took in The Dark Knight
Mm-hmm.
felt more like a Riddler thing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the Joker will occasionally, I mean, he'll make plans, but they're very short term. They're not forward thinking. They're not. He's not trying to think 10 steps in front of everybody. He's doing something with the aim of sowing chaos as quickly as possible. Like for me, like Jack Nicholson creating that Acme gas, right? I mean, that was a plan, and it sowed chaos, but it was a very short-sighted plan. It wasn't like there wasn't a lot of steps. Make laughing gas, make Joker toxin, kill as many people as possible, and that was it, right? That to me felt a lot more like what I would expect the Joker. And obviously the animated series, the Joker didn't spend a huge amount of time making these long convoluted plans. His plans were very cause chaos as quickly as possible, right? And also the Joker doesn't care about the dichotomy of humanity or the double standards of society, right? It just, in my mind, that whole plot with the two fairies, it's not a thing Joker cares about, right? At least the version of the Joker that I like. Now, at the end of the day, who cares?
I know. We're just two fanboys just debating and having a fun time talking about comic books.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
The ultimate issue is, and this is just from a purely screenwriting standpoint, not a history of the character standpoint. The way that Heath Ledger portrayed the Joker seemed at odds with the way he behaved. Right. It just he was presented as this agent of chaos, but everything he did was extremely premeditated and extremely thought out and extremely forward thinking, and that's not chaos, that's order. That's order to create terror, right? Which is different than just sowing the seeds of chaos. And so, irrespective of my personal take on the Joker, the screenwriting felt deeply inconsistent from the way the character was portrayed by Heath Ledger, who, again, did a phenomenal job. So, and we could argue until we're dead, because there is no right answer here.
Yeah, sure.
And we're not arguing. We could, roll this over as much as we wanted. It would never come to an answer.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. So with all that said, that's why you don't like the Nolan Batman as much. You don't think it sets the bar. Are you saying the Batman is the best one out of the series for you then? Out of all
No. My favorite is still the original, the '89 Batman.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you watch it and it looks a little bit dated. The fighting is pretty limited, and it's very much late '80s aesthetic. But if you can put yourself in the position of when that came out in '89, it's a remarkable superhero movie.
Yeah, it's great. It's terrific.
So,
it's funny. Like the issues you have with Joker is my issue with the Tim Burton ones, and I love them. They'll always be there, right behind the Nolans. But because Batman ends up killing Joker at the end of the movie on accident, whatever you want to say. But that's the
no. He killed him. I mean, there's no question about it. Like that was
thing. Like with the issue with the Jokers, they did the fundamental thing with Batman you don't do.
Right.
Like, he always stands up from trying to just lets him go. It's like, oh, you
well,
kidding me? But as a kid watching, I was like, I don't care because it's finally we get to see our comic books up on the screen, so I'm forgiving it.
Yeah.
It's still a great movie, Except for that, it's like it's the core of Batman. He never kills. For some reason, he always finds a way to zipline people off of buildings and save them, even though it makes no sense at all. But he does, But not in Batman '89.
Here's a small little factlet for you. In the novelization of that movie, Batman doesn't kill the Joker. He captures him, and he winds up in prison at the end of the book.
Well, it's even more insulting. Tim Burton, why'd you do that?
Well, I mean, and it's weird how the novelizations of movies take strange liberties with it. This is not a joke. I read the novelization of the Sly Stallone version of Judge Dredd.
Why did you do that to yourself? Why not?
Because I loved that movie when I was a kid. I loved that movie when I was a kid.
Oh my
A
god.
kid. I was a kid, James. I was a kid. And
Yeah.
and so I read the novelization. I do, and I don't think they do this anymore. Maybe they do, and I just don't look. But do you remember when they used to do novelizations of every major popcorn flick that came out?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. It was great. It was kind of cool. If you really wanted to nerd out with something,
Yeah.
you go read it. It was pretty neat.
So
Sure.
I did that at length. I did it. I read the novelizations of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Judge Dredd, Batman. Oh, so many, and I don't even remember all of them anymore.
I
I
mean,
read so much bad fiction as a kid. Like I wasn't reading the good stuff. I was reading all this pulp junk.
yeah, that's okay. Pulp is good though. It's still reading words on a page.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, it's hilarious. So I could still like with what you did with me with the Beatles thing, I could totally do to you with your decision to spend your time reading Judge Dredd. Your opinions are a moot point.
Yeah.
You get to me all that kind of stuff. I should do that to you, but I can't.
Hey,
You have
look,
the
look.
David.
Carl Urban's Dredd was phenomenal, and it is a crime that that movie didn't
Yeah,
get an
both of
entire
you.
franchise.
Yeah, it was it, that. Yeah, I wish it just came earlier to help watch the awful taste of Stallone's Dredd out of
Yeah. I
things.
mean, it's literally. I hate that word, but I use it all the time anyway because it's a good like just filler word.
Yeah,
It's the best Western interpretation of the raid I've ever seen.
I need to see that. I still haven't had
Oh,
to watch it yet.
it is so unbelievably good.
Yeah.
Um, and I haven't seen the raid 2, and I've heard it's also really good.
Okay.
But yeah, no, Dread is the best Western interpretation of the raid I've ever seen.
Is the raid streaming on any platform right now that you know?
No, not streaming. You have to rent it, but you can get on Amazon and rent it. It's only like $3 to rent. It's totally worth it.
Is it super violent? Is it like something that
Oh my
like
god, it's
or
so violent. It's like easily as violent as Dread is.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
And what's funny? I don't remember Dread being violent. I know it was, but for some reason it didn't get in the way. Like I was watching it for the story. Honestly,
I
I
mean,
don't.
within the first 10 minutes of the movie, two villains fall 500 feet and explode on the ground at the
Yeah,
bottom of this building. Yeah, it's super violent.
okay, all right. I'll have to keep that in mind. Yeah, I'm not sure if I can. Yeah, it may have to be one of those movies that I watch on my own. I'm not sure yet. We'll see.
Well, I mean, um, I don't know if your wife would. Does she dig those kinds of movies?
It depends. Just depends
Yeah.
on the movie. So I think we both watched Dread.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And she liked Dread.
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, props. Love it. That's great. That's great.
Yeah. So there's a chance I could watch this one then. What's it called again? Say the name one more time.
Uh, the raid.
The Raid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's such a simple name, and I always keep forgetting it. It's supposed to be something.
Maybe you're thinking of the ant killer. We're not raid. Remember those commercials?
Yeah, yeah. I like this commercial. I like the animation on them.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Um, but yeah. So that's what I would love to see. Like, and it's funny because Arkham Asylum kind of captures this. I want to see Batman, but in the raid style, where Batman gets caught in this closed space and has to work his way up to the big bad at the end.
Yeah,
And
that'd be kind of
it's
fun.
Batman versus, and there would be no like detective work or anything. It would just be
It's him brawling.
Batman and his gadgets from beginning to end, right?
Yeah, that'd be cool. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, Arkham kind of does that a little bit, but um, yeah, it would be kind of fun, just a pure brawler. I mean, way back in you know, the first video game I could think of that did that was Kung Fu back on
Mm.
uh, back on the NES 8-bit, where you just
Hmm.
well, it implies you're going up and up and up, and all you do is karate kicking and punching, and there's yeah. I just wish they would have done more of that game. I don't even think there was an ending to that game, but
In Kung Fu, I don't remember there being,
yeah,
but it was hard. That was a hard
yeah,
game.
it was. Yeah.
Well, I am. It is almost 11 o'clock for me. I'm going to turn back into a pumpkin here if I'm not careful. Um,
recap where I got to today.
Yeah, let's with the 6 minutes before we do a double length deluxe episode at a full hour long.
Yeah,
Let's see where you're at here.
yeah. So I've been animating just OCD Bug, readjusting the sign. So you see here that I repurposed the animation from this scene
Mm-hmm.
one, and then Varsity One stuff, and it's here in scene two as well. So I don't have to do the animation twice. Um, so I mean, again, I'll fine tune this a little bit later, but the main movements there. It used to be animatic in the sketch form, but now there's more final art there. And then Calamity will zoom by, and he's gonna fall off, and that's where I'm at. He's gonna fall off like this, land on the ground.
Love it.
So yeah. So I'll keep on trucking. Maybe I'll keep up on the scene for next week, or maybe I'll have something new to bring for us to talk about as we debate something else or discuss something else, pop culture wise.
All right, sounds good. Well, this was a very heavily Batman oriented episode, which is just I mean that was we did a deep dive, and every medium that Batman has touched we talked about. Television, animation, film, video games, comic books, like all of it, novelizations.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is
for Batman, man. So
yeah.
So.
This is on a very special episode of the Calamity Jane live stream, Batman.
Yeah.
So. All right. Well, we're at 56 minutes, which is perfect for 4-minute commercial break before the next episode of Batman comes on. As always, everybody, you can find us at calamityjane.rocks. It'll take you to our Patreon page. Please consider joining us, subscribing, helping us make this cartoon a reality. The more money you give us, the more time we can work on it, and the sooner it gets out. Otherwise, you can find us on all the social medias under the appropriate names. If you want to know, you can find it, I'm sure. Calamity Jane, you know where to look. And besides, you probably found us through social media anyway, so I don't know why I'm telling you this. Otherwise, thanks for being patient with us. Sorry, life has given us a bit of a left turn here, but we're back on the pavement again, and we're moving forward. And unless the universe decides to throw us another curveball, we'll see you here next week at the regular time. All right, everybody, be safe out there and have a good night. See you next week. Bye. All right.